Hey everyone, I know that I left and came back and left and probably left you guys with some confusion if you actually like watching these videos and you were like, excited because I know some people said they were that I was filming, and I just had a lot of shit happen. A lot of stuff just kind of hit me all at once. I have been going through it and it's not bad, it's just like a lot of change and a lot of like emotion. I lost my job, my full-time job that I had for 4.5 years, that I felt like I couldn't leave. I really wanted to. I was very unhappy, and then they fired me, and that just like was crazy. And for the first time in like 4.5 years, I wasn't working a full-time job. I had a lot of time off. I still had another job, but it was only on the weekends. I was not like making money to support myself. I was just like barely scraping by. I had like a big bill I had to pay, and yeah, it was crazy. But now I'm working as a server full-time, and that's another adjustment. And there's just a lot of things that changed and shifted, and I'm changing a lot and going through a lot. But I'm really happy. I'm feeling a lot better. I feel like the direction and the trajectory of my life is going where I want it to. I'm going through a lot emotionally just because my birthday just passed. I turned 26, which isn't old by any means, but it's just a strange feeling. I still feel very much so young. I feel very naive. When I was like 20, like probably from like 20 to 23, I was very like grounded into the person that I was. I was just like on this different kind of path, and my life was very together. I saved money, I was traveling, I had a long-term relationship, I was happy, and then my family needed me to take care of them financially, and that kind of just threw a wrench into my life, and it fucked my life up in ways. Like, I fucked my life up. I went from being 23 and having all this shit together to not having anything together ever, like always on the verge of falling apart. I was hurting myself, I was hurting other people, and I had no like regard for it at all because I didn't even have the capacity to acknowledge it at the time. Like, I didn't see what was happening for what it was. I just saw it how I thought it was in the moment, and looking back, I'm like, no, that's not what was going on. Because, I started taking care of my family. I was working full-time, then working at a restaurant, and the restaurant I was working at, the people were really mean to me there. They treated me very, very badly, and I felt like I always had to prove myself. I think back to this time in my life and the things that I went through and the things that I did, and I just wonder, I'm like, how did I do this? Like, how did I get through that? Like, and I think it was just, I really detached in a way, which I've always been very emotional. I've always, like, been very attached. And I think that I was detached and attached in different ways. And it was really weird, the way that it worked and the dynamic. But I was very, I don't know, it was a weird time. I was listening to Yoga Girls podcast. I just started to listen to it from the beginning because I've always like wanted to listen to it, and I'll listen to like an episode, and then I just like I'm all over the place, so I decided I wanted to start from the beginning. And the one that I'm listening to is the second one, and it's about manifesting abundance, and she talks about her journey with money and all of this. And I was thinking about my own personal like issues with money, and because recently I've been like kind of worried, but I've been spending money pretty regularly, and it's just an interesting dynamic. And I thought about when I was financially responsible for my family, I was spending a good amount of money because I was drinking very, very regularly. By very regularly, I mean like every single night. And I was drinking quite a lot. So it's just kind of crazy to me in retrospect to be like, I never was late on my bills. I never like missed payments or anything. I don't really remember being that worried. I just kind of knew like I had to do it, and so it had to happen, and it was gonna happen. And I think that like trust I need to have again, because I just always knew then, I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever I have to do. And my relationship with money too, I would go to work, and if I wouldn't make a lot of money, I would still look at it as, well, I got the hours on my check, I'm gonna get money for that, I made something, whatever. Like, and even if I didn't make anything, if I didn't walk away with any tips, I would be like, well, you know, I got the hours on my check. And so that is something I would like to get back to, but it's just been a very like transformative time, and just to deal with certain things that I did and come to terms with it. And my ex-boyfriend Thomas is back in my life in some capacity. I don't know, I wouldn't really say we're friends. We talk. It's not romantic. We have had sex. Like recently. Is that TMI? Should I not have said that? I don't know. But I don't know really if we're friends or what's going on. I'm not sure. I don't want anything romantic, I can tell you that. I feel like in my mind I should, so I keep questioning it, but I feel like that's more just of like an expectation like thing. But, and this has been a really big deal to me too, because it impacted me in several different ways. Short story on how Thomas and I ended our relationship. I think that I didn't know how bad things would be with my family, but I knew it was going to take me everything I had to get through what I did, and I kind of destroyed myself. One of the only things, not the only, but I was very proud of myself for journaling the entire time. This is when I started my journaling practice, was right when Thomas and I broke up. I have always been the kind of person, I love to write. I consider myself like a writer, but I feel like I have a lot of judgment towards myself. Like if I judge my handwriting, I judge like spelling, and if I miss words, because I'll do that. I'm sure it's like a normal thing, but like I just started writing it down, and no matter how much time passed, I kept going. So like if I got a month without writing in my journal, I didn't say, well, fuck it, I'm gonna get a new journal or whatever. I just kept writing, and that's continued on to this day, and that's really important to me. But I knew that things were gonna get bad, and I think that I didn't want Thomas to be in the like crossfires, and we were already having problems. This was kind of like a couple months of building up when I had to take care of my family. Like it was a couple months of like building that it was gonna happen, and me getting another job, and us moving into our apartment, and just doing all the things that I did. So a lot was said between Thomas and I, and when I started working at the restaurant, I got attention from other guys, and I just knew like it wasn't gonna work out between him and I didn't want to hurt him, and I knew that we would keep getting back together if I just broke up with him. If I just said, you know, like everything going on with my family, we need to break up, he wouldn't have taken that. Like I remember he said to me, he goes, "You're my rock," and I remember telling him, I was like, well, you're not my rock, I'm my rock. And that's just kind of how I was. I didn't have this space to love another person, which is gonna sound crazy in a minute because I'm gonna tell you something else, but I cheated on Thomas with a friend of mine at the time, Kevin, and I kissed Kevin, and I was drunk, and I shouldn't have done it, but I think that I knew that if I cheated on Thomas, he wouldn't come back. I think I knew it would like end things between us, which was really hard for me because at the time, Thomas was my main, like my only support system. He was the only person who was always there for me. He was the only person who like I was getting love and like affection and like support from. Like my family, I don't have that great of a relationship with, so that was such a hard thing to let go of, and I feel so selfish for thinking how I did at the time, but it was very difficult, and I feel, of course I feel bad for cheating on, I feel awful. There are things I said, things I did, not only just to Thomas, to other people, but like that, I'm just like, that is so out of my character that I just can't believe I did it. And then I told him, like, I didn't have to tell him. I told him after we had broken up too, because finally we did break up. And he broke up with me. Like, I couldn't even break up with him. Like, that's how bad it was. But, yeah. So we've been talking, and it's just, like, a weird thing. But it's been good for me because Thomas started dating right after we broke up, this girl. And I started dating right after we broke up because I couldn't be alone. I could not be alone. I started dating Kevin, and in retrospect, it is very, very clear to me that Kevin didn't want to date. Kevin wanted to be friends with me. He wanted to have sex with me. He enjoyed hanging out with me, but he did not want to date anybody. He was not ready, and I see that even more clearly now because he is dating somebody. They seem, I don't know, I don't talk to him, I don't see them, just from what other people, they seem really happy, and I could be wrong, but like, I just know how hard I tried to get him to commit to me, and it never happened. It did happen at one point, but then that just went to shit. We just could not get along, the two of us. We're very different people. But he started dating somebody, and when Kevin and I broke up back in December of last year, or January is really when it ended, I had a very hard time with the fact that Kevin was dating somebody and he seemed happy. The fact Thomas was dating somebody and he seemed happy. I had a big problem with that because I was like, fuck, maybe I'm the problem. Like, maybe I really am like the problem, and I have all these issues, and I fucked up my relationships, and they're normal, and like, I'm the one who is ruining things, because they both seem so happy with these other girls. And both of these girls were definitely different than me, looks wise, for sure. I think that Lindsay, which she dated Thomas, really shifted herself to fit Thomas better. She just started posting this stuff on Instagram that was very similar to like the content I posted, traveling pictures, and like even the captions that she chose, the quotes and stuff were very similar to me. Haley, I don't know that much about Haley. I knew her like before Kevin started dating her, but I don't know how much of her personality shifted, or I know that we have some things in common, Haley and I don't know if that's things that she was interested in before, because she definitely has done some things to be more like me, which I know sounds weird and selfish, and I don't want to think that, but when you cut your hair exactly like mine and dye it the exact color mine is, when you go from having like long brown hair and then you have purple hair and blue hair, but then you like settle on a hairstyle that is like my hair, and then just other things too that she said that I've heard through the grapevine. And I'm super interested in astrology, and obviously there are a bunch of people who are really interested in astrology, but it's just funny to me because Kevin would always get on me so badly about it and make fun of me, and just like, and so it's funny to me now because he made fun of me even after we had broken up and he was seeing Haley. So I'm like, so when did you find out she was interested in this? Because you were making fun of me for it. So weird stuff like that. But seeing Thomas, back to my story, the moon's in Gemini, and I already have a Gemini moon, so communication and everything is just gonna be crazy. But seeing Thomas, I ran into him at the end of July, and I was just beating myself up thinking I fucked up my relationships and I was the problem and I was never gonna be happy. Ran into Thomas, and he had just gotten dumped. Like, him and Lindsay had just broken up, and it made me, he like told me the whole story and everything that went on between them, and she said to him, our relationship's been dead for the past year. They were only together for 2 years. If a relationship is dead after a year, why would you just not leave then? Why would you keep trying? Like, to me, with my relationship with Kevin, I never felt like it's pointless, it's hopeless. Like, I'm an optimist. I was always like, no, it could get better. I love him. I miss him. You know, at times it seemed like fate was kind of throwing us back together, and it just always seemed like, okay, let's try one more time. Let's try again. But if you feel like your relationship's dead and you've only been together for a year, I just don't see why you wouldn't leave. Because a year isn't that long. It's just not. like, it sounds like a long time, and it would, but to leave, like, for me, it was 4 years that I was leaving, 4 years of my life that I had spent with this person, and to leave that was insanity to me. But yeah, so they broke up. And he tells me that, and that just like blew my mind, because I'm like, okay, well, I thought they were so happy based on these pictures and this and that. And I just realized, I was like, and obviously this is not a grand realization, it makes perfect sense. The content you post on the internet and the life that you allude that you have is not necessarily always what's going on. It's just not. And I was making the assumption that their relationships were so great because of what I saw. Kevin might have a super great relationship. It might be different for him. I have no idea. But it just made me feel better. I was like, okay. And a lot of why they broke up, Thomas and Lindsay, were issues that Thomas had when we were dating too. And so that made me feel better as well. Like, okay, no, this isn't all me. And I'm not happy, obviously, that him and his girlfriend broke up, but it just was like a relieving thing for me. But I have no intention to date anybody. Just all these realizations about my relationships, the things that I put Kevin and Thomas through, my own issues, and I'm not taking all the blame. Like, Kevin did a lot of things to me that he really shouldn't have, and I should have separated myself from it a lot sooner. It was very toxic. I wanted somebody to love me. I think that we both, at times, really genuinely believed that we could make things work. It just never did. I think that is a reason why he started dating Haley too, because we would always get back together, and she was super into him. And why would you turn somebody down that is super into you, and it's a solution to your problem that you can stop getting back together with your ex? And yeah, she made him feel good about himself, didn't ask anything more of him. I was always asking him to be better, or at least to want better, go back to school, do the things, like, we're 26 years old, like, that we needed to do. Whereas with Haley, they do drugs all the time and drink, and just things that I wanted to get away from, at least the drinking aspect. I don't do drugs. I have a very strange relationship with recreational drugs. I don't know. I don't like being around it. I'm not talking about like pot or anything, just like other drugs. Like, my ex would do cocaine, and like, he'd get very angry, and for a really long time I never knew if people were doing it. Like, it wasn't something I was ever around, so for a long time I didn't know. Like, my best friend was doing it, and it just, when I found out, I was like, I don't want to be around this. Like, I don't like it. And then even like psychedelics, like, I don't like the idea that people somehow think because they've tripped or this or that, that they have this higher, higher enlightenment, like a higher level of enlightenment or spirituality. Like, I feel like you can get that through other channels and avenues, and I don't know. I know how I am as a person. I'm very like anxiety ridden, and my brain is very creative. It's crazy, and I would make like myself have a very bad trip if I were to ever do anything like that. It's just not, it has a lot to do with my childhood, like what I was around growing up, and I don't like it. I don't like being around people that do it. So, and my ex, Kevin, like, he has a history with drugs that is very deep. His father is an alcoholic and an addict who, went through a lot. Kevin saw that as a child. And then now Kevin, started drinking early in high school. He was, I'm sure, smoking pot. He went to college, was addicted to Molly, had to come back. He was only there for a semester. And then, whatever other drugs he did during that time. But then he was addicted to some intravenous drugs. I don't even know what it was. I can't remember. Which, that's intense. Like, has done pretty much everything. And like, then I think that he was addicted to cocaine when we started dating, and just not good. Like, I just don't think once you put drugs in your arm, that's kind of like the top, that you get to do drugs in any other way again. And I worried for him. And he drank a lot, and that was something that I couldn't be around because my drinking was hard. I'm still struggling with my drinking. I mean, it's not struggling, but I'm still working through issues with my drinking to see what is normal for me. I went with my best friend last night. We had wine at her house and hung out, and that was fine. Like, the worst thing that happened was I added some coworkers of mine on Facebook. Like, that's it. And I drank probably like 3 glasses of wine. I had a couple beers, and it was no big deal. But when I go to places I used to drink a lot, it's just memory, and it's just natural and a habit to start drinking excessively. And so that's really something that I can't be around. Like, and I think that's why it was hard with Kevin too, because we just drank so much together. Like, my best friend and I, we drank a lot together too, but I had an extended period of time where we didn't talk. And so I really got away from drinking, and by the time I started hanging out with her again, my foundation was very firm on drinking a lot less. Like, I just don't have the desire like I used to even, you know, have beers at my house. I don't have alcohol at my house very often. I have a bottle of wine right now, the half bottle that's left from last night, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else in this house. And that's so strange for me, because I used to have like multiple bottles of wine or beer or White Claws, and just, it's strange to not have that, but it's my like new normal. Like, Thomas never drank when we dated, and now he does. He had like a very big thing against drinking, and so it was weird. I went over there to hang out with him, and like, he offered me a drink. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, so strange to have that happen. Like, just the script to flip the script. I don't know how to say that, but yeah, so that's what's been going on with me. I need to shower. My hair is like a disaster zone. I'm in general just a disaster zone. Drinking too, like, obviously you get hungover. I don't feel like shit, but I definitely, like, I woke up really late. I stayed at my friend's, so I woke up really late, and my day just like has been just kind of hanging out. And I had more stuff that I wanted to do today, but it's fine. I really wanted to see my friend. I haven't seen her in a while. I haven't talked to her about stuff, so I had fun, and we didn't, you know, do anything bad. The craziest thing happened. Oh, I'll tell this actually. I was gonna film this other video, so I'm gonna go film that now. But thank you guys for listening. I don't know if anyone actually finds this interesting, but one of my tables told me if I were to have a podcast, they'd listen to it. So I thought that was fun. All right, have a good day. Bye.